Hello and welcome to the channel. Join me in this first of a series of videos about New Zealand's regional airlines. We take a look behind the scenes and we talk with the team that make these airlines fly, and we'll experience what it's like to operate some of their aircraft. The video includes interviews with senior executives of the airline to help understand how they started, their current and future plans, and how they've survived and thrived in a competitive and operationally challenging environment, in some cases for decades. Worldwide, regional airlines play an essential role in connecting regions to major cities. New Zealand and its islands are no different, moving much needed freight and passengers that help to underpin regional New Zealand's very economic existence. The airline stories are fascinating and inspirational. They are stories of entrepreneurialism, determination, and a passion above all else for passenger safety. These courageous pioneers risk everything, including in some cases their own homes, to help start and keep their airlines flying. This first video covers the story of Air Chatham's, an airline that has built a reputation over 40 years for being innovative and commercially savvy. We start the story with one of the critical elements that may have underpinned their success, and that is the company's culture. We join Captain Craig Steele on his pre-flight walk-around of the Saab 340. The aircraft will be flying to Auckland on for our interview with Air Chatham's Chief Operating Officer, Dwayne Emery. This video is a must-watch whether you're a traveller, an aviation enthusiast, or looking for an inspirational business story and their learnings. Join me. This will be insightful and a whole lot of fun.
Well, good afternoon everybody. My name's Craig Steele. I'll be captain for this Wanganui to Auckland service this afternoon with Air Chatham's, flying the Saab 340 aircraft. It's just come in from the Auckland sector, so this will be a return. So a walk round check at this point in the day will simply be checking that there are no obvious faults, no obvious leaks, tyres are in good condition. So just come with me and we'll have a look around the aircraft. So inspecting the nose area, windscreen wipers, gear doors, obvious no injury to tyres or tyre wear, no leaks in the front end. Down the right hand side of the aircraft, pitot tubes are clear. We don't touch those, they're hot. Landing lights, the de-icing boots. Weather conditions today mean that the de-icing boots will be being used. There's quite a bit of cumulonimbus activity on our sector back to Auckland, so important that they are functional. Propellers, and again in terms of de-icing equipment, the boots on the propellers here are extremely important, as are the heated inlets for the turbines. So we're checking that those are in good condition. Another part of the process with this particular aircraft is that we have a separate oil reservoir for the gearbox, for the propeller. So we check that through that observation hatch. Everything is in order on this side. Again, the de-icing boots on the wings. Check that our position lights are functional. All the static wicks are in place on the trailing edge of the wing. In these conditions, that's quite important because we obviously have some electrical activity this afternoon, so static discharge is very important, otherwise we have issues with radio reception, etc. The exhaust and tyre condition and brake wear are something that we check, and we can see that the locating pins are telling us that we have sufficient brakes available. Again, the underside of the aircraft, everything is structurally intact. Static vents are very important for the instrumentation in our aircraft, the flight instrumentation. and also control of pressurization. So they need to be clear. Anti-icing gear, the leading edge of the tail, and we also on the underside of the tail have a series of vortex generators. We just need to make sure that those are all intact and in place. Again, the static discharge wicks. The HF aerial is in place. Again, static wicks, tail surface, and basically the left-hand side of the aircraft is just a repeat of the right-hand side.
I quickly grab an opportunity to film the empty cabin before passengers are boarded. The Saab 340A is a great regional aircraft with 34 seats and a good cruise speed. It serves its operators well. I've been invited to spend some time in the jump seat for the flight back to Auckland. After the very important jump seat briefing, including how to operate the oxygen mask in case of a depressurization, we get underway.
Okay, and starters and timing.
Thank you everybody. I'll be back shortly for the safety briefing.
Right fuel, right ignition. Fuel flow. Load off IDT engine. Oil. Out and stay. Clear. One. Starters in. Timing. Left fuel. Left ignition. Fuel flow. Light off IGT NG.
Like all airlines, Air Chatham's operates a strict sterile flight deck policy below 10,000 feet. In other words, for the beginning and the end stages of the flight, there is a period of time when the flight crew should not be disturbed, except for matters critical to the safe operation of the aircraft. So I'm sitting here very quietly, just loving watching this professional crew do their work.
Okay, heavy? Yep. Right. What a course now? After takeoff, 5 Alpha. There it is. So Pepe 5 Alpha is our arrival via Pepe, and my mate, who's the flying pilot, checks that what I've set for him is accurate, and he accepts it. Load arrival, okay, and then we hit procedure again, and we select our approach. And our approach is going to be the localizer approach for runway 23 left. So we come down to lock 23 left, and then it asks us for vectors. So it's asking for the point at which we want to join that approach. And MRAG is our approach point. You confirm? Yep. Okay. Approach is loaded, and it's GPS guidance for monitoring only. Okay. Now we've got to come back up here. We have 2 waypoints that are surplus now because they're duplicated.
So we take Auckland, remove, okay? And Agabi we don't need twice either, so we remove that. Gone. Okay. So now it's going Akdol, you ready? Yep. Akdol, Tepi, Onisu, Updip, Kitob, Sabav, Emrag, Ariso, FL23 left, 30 localizer, MA23 left, Lingu for the miss. Check. Roger that. Okay, now we come all the way back up here to Ombub, which is our next, we're flying between those 2 points at the moment. And you can see it graphically set up here. So we're 6 miles away from Ombub, tracking 338, and we can check those waypoints on our information on our log in front of us. So we're verifying this to this, and of course these are the arbiter. If there's any discrepancies, this is where we go to get the correct information. So we have multiple ways of verifying that we're on track.
And so our estimated ETA?
ETA in Auckland is 0443 UTC.
Yep. And top of descent?
Top of descent will vary. It depends on whether or not we've been slowed down, whether or not we're under vectoring. But normally then what we will do you want to set it up? So what we do is we use a vertical speed calculator. So we tell the machine that we want to be, say, 3,000 feet at MRAG, which is the commencement for the ILS-DEME approach. So we want to be at 3,000 feet at MRAG, and we accept that.
It gives you a time as well.
Yeah. At this current ground speed, but then of course that will change when we descend because we speed up. And then, so you accept that, and then it tells you here, if we wanted to be there, if we wanted to initiate descent right now for MRAG, if we started on down at 360 feet per nautical mile, feet per minute, sorry, not per nautical mile, 360 feet per minute on our vertical speed indicator, from this altitude we would be 3,000 feet when we hit MRAG. So we used to, before all of this GPS technology came along, it was just 3 times in your head, plus or minus any wind effect on your ground speed. G'day, New Zealand 019 Mike. Set 1009, passing 14,100. Check. That is checked. Cabin signs notified. You asked it to button it up. Okay, and CTOT 100. That is approach checklist complete. Holding on cabin, of course, not quite complete. So Con Lima just waiting on the cabin. 606 Con Lima 10. Chip 709, I'll continue after that, continue pressing up. Chip 709, runway 23 for cleared line. Cleared to land. We haven't got a gate. Off ground. Yeah. $500. Stable. Straight down the track. sock there.
Well, approaches and subsequent landing doesn't get much better than that. We've arrived in Auckland. I'm going to jump into one of the engineering vehicles to be taken over to Air Chatham's management and hangar facility at Auckland International Airport. We'll have time just to have a last little video clip of the entire crew. I'm very sad to be leaving this aircraft. They're about to turn back and fly back to Wanganui. It's so amazing to be in the flight deck with such a great crew that are just so focused on their job. It's a rather wet, windy day. Quick drive back to the engineering terminal to meet up with Dwayne. Right.
All good?
Yeah, we're all set to go.
Cool. Well, let's have a yarn.
Well, Dwayne, it's a real pleasure to catch up with you again. It's been a number of years.
It is, yeah.
Tell me a little bit about the history of Air Chatham's.
Yeah, no, happy to. So my father Craig started the business in the mid-80s in 1984. So he'd moved out to the Chatham Islands some years earlier, flying for a company called Mount Hutt Air, and they were working with the local co-op or seafood processing factory at the time. And they needed someone that could fly their little Cessna 185, I think it was, between Chatham Islands and Pitt Island. So with all manner of things, people and sheepdogs and sheep and lots of booze and everything. So basically keep those two islands connected through that time. And then he obviously met my mum and got married and got to know the
So
locals.
she lived on the Chathams, your mum?
She was a Pitt Islander, yep.
Oh,
so
Pitt Islander.
She was a Pitt Islander,
right.
yep. So all my ancestry is Pitt Island, and so through that he got to know the island and the people really well, and he was a keen aviator at heart, and he could see from those conversations and from living on the island that there was a real gap in terms of the service at the time. So it was a subsidised air provided by Safe Air. They were using the Bristol freighters, and then they moved to the Argosy eventually after that.
And was that between Wellington and the Chathams?
Predominantly through Wellington,
right.
being the shorter point. That inspired him to do his own thing, and I think his parents put a second mortgage on their house, and he bought a Cessna 337, which was the push-me-pull-you aeroplanes.
Right.
And then he started flying. Initially it was all sort of ad hoc as needed, and then slowly developed a little bit of an informal schedule, initially flying into Hastings, which is on the east coast, again,
right.
Shortest point between the Chathams and the mainland New Zealand, and he used to get a lot of his maintenance work done there at Bridge Park. And then it was a case of wherever people needed to go he would fly, and then it just grew and grew from there. One of the key parts of it was that at the time all of the crayfish that was being caught on the Chathams was being frozen, so snap frozen. They'd only keep the tail meat,
right.
They'd package that up and they'd put it on the ship and they'd send it out, and so the margin that they were getting on that sale was a lot less than the live product. And he was aware that, through conversations, that there was a lot of live product coming out of the South Island, especially around Fiordland.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. So he was able to start building that in a much bigger way and getting that product to market.
And was that going to the New Zealand market for consumption, or was it further afield?
Yeah, I think back then it probably was, domestic and a little bit more international. Obviously now it's almost entirely international into China. But he grew that market. So there's about just under 400 tonnes of quoted crayfish on the island, and we fly the whole lot into either Auckland or Wellington, and it gets export packed and off to China from there. So
if you were to describe what sort of underwrites or underpins the operation? Is it still predominantly the fish?
So I think, freight for the Chatham Islands route is hugely important. So the seafood market, effectively sustains that island. I mean, you take that out and that island's got a real problem. And the airline would have a real problem too, because Chatham Islands still represents just over a third of our business in terms of annual revenue. So it's as important today as it always has been. And I think that's the key point, is as the airline's grown larger, it's actually always been about the Chathams. It's like, how do you sustain a Part 121 size airline, just for the Chathams?
Right.
So we needed to do all these other things. We needed to pick up opportunities in the South Pacific, and when Air New Zealand made some decisions around their routes, we needed to be able to fold that into our operations. So
tell me more about that. So when Air New Zealand sort of made the decision to get out of some of the regional gateways, you saw an opportunity, obviously.
To be honest, we were looking for anything at that point. We were very happy that the opportunity came about, but we'd had an airline in Tonga for 5 years, Chatham Pacific, which was awesome. I mean, we were the sole domestic carrier there for almost 5 years. There was a little bit of competition at the start, but we built that up to, we had over 100 staff just in Tonga alone. It was a really neat operation, and we did a really great job. But things changed politically, and we decided it wasn't a safe place for us to be from a business point of view. So we moved out, and then we landed on our feet. We got a hangar facility, this one here in Auckland.
Right.
And then we were able to sort of rebuild with that. And so initially it was, looking at any opportunity. We talked to the team down in Masterton and put some proposals to them. Unfortunately, that didn't work out at that time. And then, Christopher Luxon was the CEO of Air New Zealand at the time, and he went into a bit of a consolidation phase, I guess, with the national carrier, and disbanded the Beach 1900 fleet.
Right.
And then looked at sort of consolidating into a hub and spoke system, but using large regional hubs. So. And with a simplified operating model, Q300 and the ATR 72, so that opened up a lot of opportunity for the second and third tier airlines. So at that time there was Whakatane, Kaitaia and Westport were all up for competitive tender from the district councils, and so we literally tendered on all three. Whakatane was probably the one that we were most interested in, because it was easier for us in terms of our support options with Auckland. And we felt like it had the most potential at that time for growth. So it'll be 10 years in April next year.
Wow.
That we've been there.
So what's the current network? So I know Whakatane, Wanganui, Kapiti.
Yep.
Norfolk
Island.
Yep. I'm going to talk to you more about Norfolk Island, because I'm really excited about that.
Yes.
I mean, that's your international.
That's our only international route, yes.
So I was trying to decide, is Air Chatham's sort of the New Zealand second designated international carrier?
I guess we must be, yeah. Well, from a passenger point of view, yeah, absolutely. And again, I mean, you'll have more questions on it, but Norfolk Island is such an interesting one because it's got so many parallels to the Chatham Islands, and then physical parallels. Like, I don't think a lot of people know, and it sort of surprised me, is that if you took off from the Chatham Islands and you flew, I think it's 580 something nautical miles.
Go ahead.
To Auckland, and then you stayed on that exact same heading for the exact same distance, you land in Norfolk Island.
Isn't that interesting?
There you go.
And is it true? I think Noumea is slightly closer to Norfolk than Auckland.
Yes, but we're scared of the French, so we don't go there.
You don't go there? I only know because I spent some time on Norfolk myself, involved in an airline, and our 73 would often divert to Noumea, and it was always a challenge.
Yes, we definitely discussed that of what was the best place to divert, and I think we all decided that we weren't going to Noumea, we were going back to New Zealand. Yeah.
So tell me, the airlines evolved in terms of its size. It stayed true to itself in terms of the Chathams. Tell me about the aircraft evolution. So the Convair was the backbone for the longest time?
Hugely. I think, probably that even earlier than that, the turning point was the Fairchild Metroliner. Right. I mean, I think that was the aircraft that really got things growing for Air Chats. I think Craig got his first one in 1991. I think we started like scheduled services in 92, 93. And that was, you know, into the likes of Napier, Wellington and Christchurch. So, and then it went through a real rapid growth phase there, to the point where, you know, they were flying up to 3 returns a day off the island to meet the freight demand, the passenger demand. And then the Convi, as you say, was probably the next catalyst, if you like, for that airline growth, and actually for the Chatham Islands economic growth as well, because, you know, Craig put a huge amount of thought into that aeroplane, worked with Kelowna over in Canada around what could be done, what could be developed. So it took an existing Convair 580 frame, and then was able to develop a combi,
Right.
but not just your sort of stock standard combi that has a fixed option, you know, passengers and cargo. It could be, you know, full cargo, full
quick
passenger,
change,
quick
a
change.
QC, right.
Hours and hours and hours of, you know, I was a ground handler in my earlier days trying to raise money through school holidays, and so we did a lot of config changes on Convairs, and then as a pilot. And that's what I love about Air Chathams, is that doesn't matter what position you have in the business, you chuck some overalls on and go and configure an aircraft from a passenger to a freighter, and throw some crayfish bins around and throw some mail on, and so yeah, a lot of really fond memories of the Convair doing that work. So you get to load it and then you get to fly it.
Right. And so a lot of that engineering work, was that done in Kelowna, BC?
Yes. Yep.
Right.
That's
okay.
right. That's right. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Beautiful part of Canada, and
I haven't been. Yeah, no.
I haven't.
We've got
Well,
some
it's
nice
gorgeous.
golf
Let me
courses,
tell you.
and, yeah, so we'll have to get over there. But yeah, just they were very much out of the box thinkers, and Craig was able to partner with them and develop that aircraft, and that made a huge difference for the island, because not only could it help develop and grow the seafood industry, which it has done, but it also helped develop the tourism industry over there as well. So, you know, you've had a lot of establishments that have been able to grow through that period, and people come and visit the Chathams and experience the Chatham Islands, you know, which is something that a lot of domestic New Zealanders, you know, have always really wanted to do, and still do to this day. So, so yeah, the Convair was significant for us.
And then the next evolution in terms of aircraft type.
Yeah, I mean, the Convair was just so good, and it was still doing a great job. Like all through the pandemic, it did an amazing job flying freight all over the country, and obviously connecting the Chatham Islands. But it is an old aeroplane, and you know, with older aircraft, you do get reliability issues. You do get cost escalations. They just don't make some things anymore. So, and of course, you know, from a regulatory point of view as well, I think there was a bit of pressure there to see Chatham's looking at some different options. So yeah, for us it was a case of what comes next, and the ATR 72 was a good choice. Air New Zealand operates, and you know, we have a good working relationship with Air New Zealand. We were able to purchase 2 of their aircraft and operate those. So we got our first one in 2018. And that was purely to service a sort of high-end charter contract we do with a US-based company called Talc.
Yep.
So that helped us get a foot in the door into that aircraft type, and then, as Air Chathams does, we were able to retrofit it so that it was able to fly oceanic sectors.
Right.
We were able to, again, think outside the box market. So you can't do what you could do with a Convair by turning it into a quick change combi.
Sure.
But we could do some other things, like we use seat bags through the cabin.
Yep.
Which is a little bit onerous for our parole load teams, but actually what it means is that, you know, we can get 3 to 4 tonne in some cases on those aircraft.
Right.
Using the standard holds plus the seat bag system. So,
which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, well, I think anyone that flies on ATRs with Air New Zealand around this country, to jump on a flight to the Chathams and see half of the cabin taken up with freight, especially lobsters, is quite a unique experience. Yeah.
But that's at the heart of regional aviation innovation, isn't it? I mean,
totally.
Carriers have to adapt.
Yep.
And so that equipping the ATR for obviously operations out to the Chathams, the oceanic phase of the flight, also then opened Norfolk Island for you.
That's right. So I mean, Norfolk Island, we actually kick-started in 2019 with the Convair, and again, they love the Convair as much as the Chatham's community, because it carries all the people, great for the larger tourist groups, freight as well, no issues with that. But pound for pound, the ATR is a really great aeroplane for that market. You know, again, it's a lower cost operating aircraft as well. So. Yeah.
Excellent. And now you also have the Saab, so it's the Saab and the ATR is pretty much the fleet?
Yeah, so we've moved to effectively a two fleet model. So we've got the Saab aircraft and we've got the ATR. So we've got 5 Saabs, we've got 4 passenger Saabs, 1 pure cargo, and then the 2 ATR aircraft. Yeah.
And the Saabs are the 340A and B?
Yeah, one 340B, and that is a really nice machine. You do notice the difference between
bigger engines, right?
Slightly, only slightly. It's only about a 30 horsepower difference, but that 30 horsepower
gives you a higher weight, obviously.
Payload wise, it's better off some of the shorter strips,
right.
And then, but actually, just in terms of in-flight performance, it's quite a lot better. But yeah, the 340As are also a very good machine and very economical considering their age. So, yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I know where you got one of the Saabs from Kiwi Regional.
That's right.
That's where we first really sort of knew each other from.
Yep.
You would often at Air Chatham's help us out when we had reliability issues with our aircraft.
It's aviation. Yep.
Yeah, that's aviation. But the other Saabs, where did you secure them?
Yeah, so Guam. So we got two Saabs out of Fly Guam and or Skydive Guam, I think it was. So that was a B model and an A model, and then recently we've purchased some from Rex Aviation.
Right.
So we actually bought 4 Saabs, 2 of which we intended to operate. One was the cargo Saab, and then one was a passenger, and then 2 we'll use to support the rest of the fleet.
Now I know your time's limited, so I've got a couple of quick fire questions. Just to, so when you look at what you and your father have built, I mean, it's been around for decades, nearly 45 years.
40 years this year. That's
right. I mean, that is amazing, and it's something that you've grown from the root up, right?
Yep.
Has a key component of surviving been, sticking to your areas of focus, trying to avoid, well, you tell me, avoid direct competition? Walk me through the business model.
Yeah, I think you don't want to lose sight of what your core purpose is. And for Air Chatham's, our core purpose has always been providing air solutions to isolated regional communities.
Right.
So we've always had that. We've always had that approach in terms of the things that we think we should do and could do, and then making sure that you do it really, really well. So basically, doing what you say you're going to do. If you're going to put a schedule in place, you fly that. Right. One of the things that we really don't like doing is not having flights go as per a schedule. And I think all airlines are the same, but for us it's doubly so because we know what those services mean to those communities.
Right.
Both Craig and myself are commercial pilots, so we get to operate the aeroplanes. We get to see the people that get on and off our aeroplanes, and we get to see what it means to them. They might be connecting off international flights, or connecting with family, or making a business deal, and you get to be part of those communities in that way, and that's quite special. So I think that gives you that motivation to make sure that you commit and do what you say you're going to do. And then I think to your other point there, we've always looked for a little bit of a niche market. We avoid competition because I think a lot of the routes that we fly to probably can't sustain competition.
Right.
And we've always looked at, again, providing a really good service, and if you do that, then people won't be looking around for competition to bring in, or come in against you. And so I think it's just really important that you stay true to that core purpose. For us, we are Chatham Islanders. That resonates at our heart, and what we've been able to do is take some of that that sort of flavour, I guess, of what we've developed for that island community, and then start to put it across some of the other things that we do.
I mean, you get the feeling that the culture in the organisation is so amazing. I mean, you bump into staff and you ask them, so what do you do? And they go, oh, well, I'm a cabin crew most of the time, but then I frequently do check-in.
Right.
And when I need to, I'll swing a bag. I mean, that's at the heart of what regional aviation's about.
Yep.
That wouldn't happen in an Air New Zealand or a Qatar or an Emirates, right?
Oh yeah, that's it, and I think and that's pretty neat. We're very proud of that.
Yeah.
Although, you know, what we do find is as anything gets a little bit bigger, then you need those other structures. You need to bring that stuff in because it's important. But
so a couple of tough questions.
Yes.
Are you finding it hard to retain pilots? Is it the typical scenario where you give someone a break, they get a few hours under their belt and they're gone? Is that still going on?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of slowed down in very recent times, but I think Airchats, you know, we, in some cases with some people, with some pilots, with engineers, cabin crew, you know, it is a bit of a stepping stone to other things, and they may have some career aspirations that have been developed before they started with us that they want to see come true, and we respect that. I think a lot of other professionals in our businesses have actually seen that I can have a career here. I can have a career at Air Chathams. And again, you talk to the culture.
Yeah.
You got to get the culture right. People got to want to work here, want to work with you and for you. And if you can get that right, then you know you'll get people that will actually make their own life plans based around what you can offer.
Right.
And I think again, as we get a little bit larger and we operate larger aircraft, and who knows, there may be a jet at some point on the horizon, then you know, we want to be able to bring people through our organisation and that they can have opportunities, whether it's, you know, starting off as a ground handler that has a commercial pilot's licence and getting into a Saab and then maybe flying an ATR and then flying something bigger in the future, who knows. Cabin crew, same thing. You know, we've got cabin crew that have moved out of the cabin and into administrative and management positions because that's where they've had an interest, and or they've come and had a talk to, you know, Craig or myself or one of our other senior team and said, hey, you know, I'd really like to go and upskill myself in this area so that I can then come back and do this other thing, you know, that's airline related. And we support all of that. Engineers, same thing. I mean, it's really, really tough to find engineers. I mean,
and to keep them.
And to keep them, and of course, and the cost for an airline to get them qualified on your fleet as well.
But you've done that. I remember one of our engineers at Kiwi.
Yes.
You took him with the Saab, and now I think he's the captain.
He is
on the Saab.
That's
so,
right.
So that's worked.
Yeah.
If you were to turn your mind now to the lengthening of the runway out at the Chathams, which is obviously exciting. It does raise the spectre of a bit of vulnerability in terms of other operators with 737s coming in and grabbing that lucrative market that you've cultivated so well. Talk to me how you're feeling about that, and then also what are the other challenges? I mean, 40 years, where are you taking the company in the next 40 years?
Good questions. Well, yeah. So on the longer and stronger runway project, I think, you know, Air Chathams was a major supporter of that, working with our local enterprise trust and council and airport and other stakeholders. We wouldn't be doing our job if we weren't looking at how we can develop the Chatham Islands community and businesses and economy into the future as well, and I think that's a very, very important part. So the government had invested in the wharf, and then it was the obvious next step is that we needed to invest in the airport. You wouldn't have saved a lot of money just to do a reseal and, you know, the apron and the runway and a new terminal build, which was needed. So to go this extra step, get that extra length, you know, get a terminal that at some point in the future has the ability to handle, you know, aviation security size aircraft.
Sure.
Makes perfect sense. yes, it opens up an opportunity for others to use larger jet aircraft that already exist in this market, but they've still got to have those relationships on the island. They've still got to be able to do the job. And I tell you, like, that is not an easy job. I mean, we have a great team on the island. You know, we have one particular staff member who's been with us the longest, so 30 plus years.
Wow.
And she consolidates every kilo of freight that goes both ways. And has a team with her that can also step in and support that role. That is what it actually takes, because you're dealing with people that are out on boats on the water that don't know what they're going to catch, with processing companies that are waiting on fluctuations in price. It is a very dynamic little industry over there. So, you know, what we think will happen, and we want to be part of this journey, of course, is that we'll be able to start drip feeding those larger capacity aircraft through the Chathams and develop those markets over time. But to come in and operate a frequency that the island needs for people and freight with that large capacity, it's certainly not ready for that yet. It needs to be developed, and yeah, we're up for that.
Okay. And to wrap it up, other challenges that you see? I mean, the incredible thing when you think about you've survived through the pandemic, you've evolved. So it's not like you're not used to black swan events, right? I mean, that's pretty.
Oh no, Craig reminds me of a lot of them, and I think, you know, to your point, like it wasn't even really just to survive, through the pandemic. Like, I think that's
you thrive.
Yeah, that's not Air Chatham's ethos. You know, like we were like every business in New Zealand, we probably had that period of time where it was like, oh gosh, I'm stuck in my house and I've got nothing to do. And that very quickly turned into what can we do, and what is critically important. So again, really quick support from Ministry of Transport and the government to allow that link to the Chathams to be retained, because that was so critical. And then we had a bit of a think, scratch the old head and think, well, what can we do? And we had these Saab aircraft that were quick change modified, although we'd never used them in that capacity before. So we were able to trawl through the flight manuals and the supplements and turn them around. And I think we flew through those lockdown periods. We flew about 500 tonne of live seafood, export packed live seafood, out of Christchurch and Wellington to connect with that international subsidised freight service into Asia. And I think if we hadn't have done that, because that is hailed as a success for the government to maintain that trade line, and it was. But it was through companies like Air Chats and a lot of others, I'm sure, that were able to actually be quite dynamic through that period of time. So that's pretty. It's
pretty exciting. So if I was to walk back here in my walker in 20 years' time, what will be here? What will Air Chathams be?
Well, first and foremost, I will be here. It's aviation, so you never know from one year to the next. But we're committed to what we do. Personally, I've just turned 40, so I've got a little bit of time left in the industry, I hope. I would like to see Air Chathams as the regional aviation player. I'd like to see us partnered formally with our national carrier and serving as a feeder into those international routes. Because
that's not happening currently, right? So if I jump on a plane in Whakatane or Wanganui, correct, I can't check my bags through to Los Angeles.
Not yet.
And is that a reluctance from the national carrier, or is that just systemisation issues?
No, I think we were in a place in 2020. Obviously, other things happened in 2020, but the Air New Zealand were ready to do that. Mm-hmm. But pandemic put things back a few years, and then of course as the world opened up again, capacity became a massive issue, and like all businesses, you had to prioritise.
Sure.
So I think that's kind of landed us to where we are now. But there is an appetite to do something, and I'm hoping very soon that we can start working on that again.
Now, see, you've got a couple of sims. You've got an ATR and a 7.3 sim.
Yep.
Is that a spin-off business in terms of for training? Obviously the ATR you use for your own crew.
Correct.
Where are you going for your Saab? Are you still going to Melbourne?
Still Melbourne. Yeah,
Still Melbourne.
We'd like to get ourselves a Saab sim, that would make things easier, or not maybe. Sims are almost like aircraft to run. We're finding that out the hard way. But yeah, we bought the 737 sim. Again, Craig loves an opportunity, so he literally got a phone call from Air New Zealand. They said, "Hey, we've got this sim. We've got this earthquake. This building has to come down because it's not earthquake strengthened. And would you like to buy it?" And he picked it up for a song and then spent a horrific amount of money getting it up and running again. But we've got that, and we now hire that out to other 737 Classic operators here in New Zealand and Australia. So that's starting to finally return something back to the business. The ATR one was actually an opportunity that came up through the pandemic, and our concern was how we're going to train our pilots if we don't have access to this device if it goes offshore. Right. So we partnered, we bought it outright, set it up, or continued to operate it with Air New Zealand at their sim centre, and then we've subsequently moved it to Wiri in Manukau.
Right.
We've set up a little sim centre there. And we've partnered with Heavy Lift over in Australia, so it's a 50-50 deal on ownership of that asset. And of course, I think they've got 14 ATRs now compared to our 2, so they're keeping it very busy.
It's been a real pleasure catching up and reminiscing about the past, hearing about your incredible journey. Thanks for spending some time with us today. It's really appreciated.
Awesome. Thank you, Jon.
Real pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Cheers.